it was the ambition of telling a lifespan, telling the story of someone from the time they were a girl, from the time she was 10 years old, to the time 35 years later when she's 45 years old, and what made up the soul of that girl. Well, to begin with, what is the magic of a child? And there are, I think, all children, and some especially, have access to a certain magic, and that was very exciting to me and to Jennifer and to the child actress Isabella Cramp, who's extraordinary, and as is Madison Wolfe. So to tell a story of a whole woman's life, from when she's 10 to when she's 18 to when she's 25, married, 27, divorced, now single mother of two, going to try working at an airline customer service desk, which was based on truth, and then lost and broke. At least half or more of the movie is based on Joy Mangano, and the other half is based on daring women I've been aware of and read about for many years. That includes Lillian Vernon, who started the first mail-order catalog, one of the first successful ones in the 50s and 60s for home products, and numerous other women I knew, my mother's friends, who dared to start ventures, some that succeeded and some that failed. But it was all about their spirits and starting things out of their homes and wanting to break a new path for themselves and their families. Here you have this metal garage this little girl grows up near, all right? And she and her sister grow up near that. She also grows up near a troubled marriage. Her mother's a very quiet person, unlike her romantic, robust father that De Niro's playing. Virginia Madsen plays against type, a kind of a gentle, quiet creature who's kind of taken refuge from the world. The world has been a little too rough for her, and her divorce has been too rough for her. So she stays in her room in this simple home, and she takes refuge in fiction and narrative. And anybody who loves film and music can take solace in fiction. The whole purpose of narrative, going back thousands of years, is to help us be at home in the world and make meaning out of it, or reassure us, make us not feel alone. So she watches a soap opera. Now, this is also part of this little girl's psyche. You've got the metal garage of her father. You've got her mother's soap opera world across 4 decades. That means in 1969, 1979, 1989, 1999, and like 2004, 2005. Another part is her steady, quiet, believing grandmother who says, "You were born to be the unanxious presence in the room." Now, what does that mean? That's a very powerful notion, to be the unanxious presence in the room. That's the person who's going to protect that special power. If a little girl is able to make paper creations, and her sister says, "In the story you're making, you need a prince," she says, "I don't need a prince. This is a special power." And she holds up this paper bird she's made. She goes, "This right here is a special power." And to me, that is a special power that when people know they have it, it can never be taken away from them. No matter what happens to them emotionally or in finance or in business, it can never be taken away from them. You can keep cutting it down and it's always going to sprout. Jennifer asks relentless questions, and she's curious, relentlessly curious and relentlessly challenging, all to the purpose of making a more fascinating and real person, and all to the purpose of finding what is the most interesting things that we have never done before. So Jennifer and I are saying, isn't it interesting for you to be someone who is the quiet presence in the room? How does an actor, how does a woman carry that fierceness quietly? So that's a different question for both of us. And how do you feel that palpably coming off of her? So that's a power. That's a special power, like the paper creations the little girl made. She had to link up to that little girl. And she has the heart of a child as well. Jennifer could play for hours with these child actors on the set. I would hear them in the corner somewhere between setups, and she would be talking to them like she was one of their peers and playing with them. She has a very natural feeling for children. The Private Storm of Emily Rockman. That was the name of that soap opera. And we hired icons of soap, which was very exciting to work with: Susan Lucci, Morris Bernard, Laura Wright, Donna Mills, and 2 other actors. And they have been in soaps for 20, 30 years. And Virginia Madsen, as if it was kismet, happened to be the only person on set who spent 11 years watching all those soaps. And so she knew every plot line. And she would tell me these plot lines, and I was just, they were fantastic. The plot lines of soap operas are worthy of Russian literature. And you realize that much of Russian literature is like soap opera, but it's fantastic and brilliantly done in a literary fashion, but it is soap opera. She has a huge heart, and she's also got a wildly creative spirit, and I mean, as an artist. So I think she's someone who can express numerous worlds that to just amuse her, and there's something wild about it. There's something that is wild and unplanned or unexpected, and so that's the privilege of getting to talk to her about any story. You see this in so many families. There's 1 or 2 people, and sometimes it's more than that, who has this magic. And Joy has this magic, and she has a sister who tends to be not as resilient or happy or not as inventive, is dazzled by her sister's work, but also baffled as to why this magic exists. And the real question for Joy is how to remain true to herself. And how does anybody remain true to yourself? And how do you keep that heartbeat? I do believe that women, in many respects, are stronger than men in ways that are, I think, hard to understand sometimes. That's what makes it beautiful to me, and because of the tenderness and because of kind of mysterious things that are just magnificent to me. These women in this movie, I loved every single one of them. And I love that her grandmother believed, Diane Ladd told me that there are women who believe the grandmother's soul will go into the granddaughter's soul. And she believed that. Diane Ladd believed that her character's soul had gone into Jennifer's character's soul, and they had that link. So that Diane, as the narrator, is almost like a beautiful spirit that remains with her even beyond into time when she's not around. So that, to me, was beautiful.